Butterfly, and you're telling me you need to have a name, you need to have the homeworld, you need to hear, you need to there. What the fuck? I have ideas.
All right, Mr. Ideas Man, you just spouted all that to the live public.
Yeah, okay, fine by me. Now they know what kind of shit show this is sometimes.
Anyway, hello.
Welcome aboard this train. It's called Pain.
You stole my thunder. Anyway, hello everybody, and welcome back to us talking about some homebrew lore. This time we pour Birch, who we have been tormenting for the past 10 minutes on just to get a name for the title.
10, it's actually like 20 minutes at this point.
Also, I'd like to correct we to you.
Yeah.
Okay, yep, fair enough.
It's
fair
being
enough.
just you.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Ferris Manus.
Yep. Would you like to introduce me?
It's shame. Anyway, Alice, you're first with introducing yourself.
Hello, once again. My name is AliceOfBats. That's the username you can find me on everything. I do art, and I am currently the Warhammer consultant.
Dave, you're up.
I'm Dave, and I'm mad.
He's also the scribe for today. So, Dave, you're in charge of writing all this shit down again.
Yay!
So, either you or Birch need to make a Google Doc for this shit.
I have a word document. I don't know what you're on about.
Well, with a Google Doc, you two can both write in it at the same time. It makes it easier for us to do this. Whatever. Anyways, Birch, you're up. Introduce yourself.
A butterfly, I'm tired, and I'm being bullied.
Belloc, why don't you ever introduce yourself?
Yeah.
You aren't being bullied, I swear.
He says that menacingly, approaching me.
I promise I'm not going to bully you. Just come here.
I just want to talk to you. I
Pushes
just
him against
want to talk to you. I just want to talk to you.
Leans
just wanna
over
talk
him
to you.
against the wall.
Oh my
I
God.
just want to talk to you. Anyway, Birch, start us off. What do you got?
Buffering. Hold on. Okay.
I have some notes.
I have a
Why
few
do you
notes.
have notes on my chapter? Like, that's okay. Interesting. Anyway.
I think
I
there's
have-
a lot more space to develop certain concepts here.
All right. The idea, the general premise and idea was to create a Celtic and Gaelic inspired chapter with a heavy use of psychers.
All right, so we are referring to Space Marines then.
Yes.
Okay, good.
I'm not done yet. They are supposed to come from a slightly more developed and independent night world, so one that isn't actually relying on the Mechanicus. You can somewhat imagine the visuals of this world to be a blend between Gaelic traditional art and the Industrial Revolution, something like a Gaelic version of Art Deco. A little bit of steampunk going in there. I am not certain if there's supposed to be a new chapter or not. I might have had the idea of as controversial as it sounds, to have their gene seed be a mix between Magnus and Russ, because they both. I know, because first of all, because they fucking hate each other, and second of all, because they have parts of both.
That is kind of funny.
It also gives this dirty little secret that's part of the chapter. and they're supposed to have a strong bond to natural spirits, nature spirits in quotation marks, which we all know if anything has like spirits or shit like that it's warp shit.
I swear to you on Russ's life that we are 100% not part of Magnus the Red. I swear.
I'm gonna go into that part a little bit deeper in a moment.
I'm very excited to hear that.
And I want the chapter to have an aversion towards the Mechanicus, so that they actually do not like the Mechanicus much because of their use of somewhat self-developed technology on their homeworld. So how I imagined the homeworld to be was a world that was created during the dark age of technology as a research world, but it was quite close to when they got cut off from each other. I don't recall how it was named. When Slanesh was born, essentially. And so they started developing their own technology on basis of the natural energy and spirit that they would find there, which all of these spirits would have strong resemblance to Fae giants, how you call it, kelpies, etc., like mythical creatures from that region, from the Irish Isles. And in the end, we as an audience know these are demons in a calmer form. You know, since the warp, when everything gets fucked up, it's a representation of the emotions within the galaxy. And here, because people started to realize, okay, if we mess with nature and the balance and our own balance, things get out of control here really quickly. People have started to move towards this being in balance with the planet while still developing on their own. And it became easier thanks to the Night House, because they could enforce those rules. However, since they realized that they were cut off from the rest of the galaxy, they also could quickly realize that industrializing to a certain degree was necessary. So they essentially started to push their own development a bit more than other night houses would do, leading them to become this stuck within the Industrial Revolution, so to speak. So they could maintain their titans, but not to a degree that, for example, the Mechanicus is capable of right now, but more than good enough to be serviceable. I'd also say that they wouldn't have like any large titans. They might mainly have smaller ones separated on, just split up on separate regions, so to speak. Yeah, that's more or less the gist of it. The only more specific thing that I otherwise had was a larger hive city on the planet, which would be a very complex city to live in and occupy if you ever wanted, because it was supposed to be built on top of. It's supposed to be built on moving plates, rotating plates, somewhat like a clock, but they all move independently from each other. So to get into the center of the city is actually quite complex because the city constantly moves around itself. And it would be powered by this perpetual motion machine that nobody quite understands how it works in the galaxy. They have the plan, they maintain it, they have no clue how it actually works, so to speak.
So I'm a really big fan of very large swaths of this. And something I will say is when you talk about Gene Seed and you mention the Space Wolves, but then you also mention the nature of how the inhabitants of this world connect with what are essentially warp entities, it rings really true of kind of what you see from Fenrisian warp. I guess I would call it warp culture, with their own gods and deities, and they are warp beings, but they function as intended by their chapter, and so there's kind of a precedent there that I really like that kind of cross pollination on.
Yeah, I had that a bit in mind.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good choice. Now, as for what I would love to kind of hear in terms of like where it goes is this world seems, as far as Imperial worlds go, almost idyllic. Like their reunion with the wider Imperium during the Great Crusade could be really interesting. And I would love to kind of, get a glimpse into how that plays out.
I had a slight idea of that. I would essentially see it happen as the Emperor or the Imperium finds this world that somehow it kind of defies their logic on what has happened or what the world should have been at this point, and they see how these people have developed on their own, and while they don't the Emperor sees how they have created their own technology, and he's not quite happy about it. But he also sees that it has a warp connection, so he doesn't want to quite fuck around with it. Like, he doesn't want to fuck around and find out. He's like, this works, this is stable, we really have to keep an eye on it. Like keep a garrison there, pay attention, let them pay their tithes, but for the love of God, do not let them develop any further on their own. And that's also that would be also the reason why the people dislike the Mechanicus, essentially, because they feel like the Mechanicus are hampering their own development. They're forced to follow these kooky tech priests that just refuse to see reason for them.
Now, I have one kind of further question on that, which would be when they are discovered during the the Great Crusade, or whatever, the the reunification part of forming the Imperium, once Earth's been reclaimed, would they be discovered by crusading space marines? Would they be discovered by regiments of essentially just Imperial militia or something like that? Or something that could be interesting is if their world was essentially rediscovered by like expeditionary Mechanicus. That could be a really interesting component. I didn't know if you had like an idea of where that went.
No, I didn't put too much thought onto that subject yet. I think it would be fun to have the Mechanicus discover them, and then them running panically back to the Omnissiah and saying, "Hey, there's some fucking heretics there." Like, that would be funny.
That's exactly where I kind of thought that would have some interesting components, is where you get these guys who are just like, we've not seen this technology, and then they immediately just fucking scatter, and it's like, where'd they go?
Where'd they all go?
it would also maintain an uneasy truth between them because the Omnissiah said that they're all right, so we have to be all right with them, but we don't really like this.
Yeah, just kind of gritting teeth and dealing with it. I think that's a really fun relationship with the Mechanicus. Anyway, I've been pressing you on a few points here. Do we have any other like initial thoughts from others?
Just once more, something about aesthetic of the chapter. It's kind of common from ancient Gaelic warriors to have this sort of face paint over them, or some sort of war tattoos. Is there anything like that within your chapter?
I haven't gone that far into it yet. I would have to do some research on both fronts to really place that down. It sounds like an interesting idea, but I would have to know more on the specifics of how, why, and when you would get those kinds of markings.
Now, I have an interesting that question raises another one for me. That is, so we've kind of reached, we had pre-heresy, and then we had, connection to the wider Imperium, and generally they're trying to. It sounds like they're just trying to keep the planet stable, but here we are 10,000 years later in the 41st millennium. Is it that people have just kind of fallen down the rabbit hole of like worshipping these things or treating them as mythical creatures rather than warp beings, or are they wise to it? And the further question is, it was originally researchers, is my understanding, that were here documenting these things. Did it go from we seek to establish a scientific understanding to like fully going all in on this, cultural, spiritual practice, or is it still more of a clinical separation between we know what these are or what they're trying to be, and we need to, keep it a certain way? I don't know if my question makes sense.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. I think it has become more of a mold that the research has become part of the culture. So researching and understanding these entities has become part of the culture, but not in the sense of, are they warp entities or not, but understanding how they work, how they live, how they operate, and how they're connected to the world, and how to best keep everything under control.
I see.
Okay, for example, what I would see, for example, is Fey-like entities, so fairy-like entities. Spoiler alert, fairies in Irish myth are fucking dicks.
Oh, they're awful.
Yeah, they're genuinely terrible.
Shitbags. You should not fuck around with them. But they're not unreasonable. So people have understood when you can interact, for example, with one of these entities, and when you should best and how to best interact with these entities, because to me, the way they sound, they would probably be close to something like Zinch's minions, like scheming little background, but they do it in a like try and tease and poke fun, as long as you don't go into our realm way. So they've established these laws for these different entities, and even on certain degrees, even cooperate with them for all kinds of things like transportation, energy, even guarding certain areas. It's become a mutual understanding and cooperation. That's how the research has developed, essentially. They don't necessarily worship them, but they coexist with them, excuse me.
Yeah, that's... I mentioned it earlier, that does just kind of still stinks like wolf, for lack of a better way of phrasing it, where I just like I feel that kind of the folkloric connection between like the inhabitants of a planet and the warp more specifically is what I'm getting at. Just where these warp entities can be understood, and while they are connected to, the warp, it's not like it's something that inherently is. The warp is not evil by nature. It is evil by nature of the setting, because the setting is evil. It has made the warp evil. So I like the idea of a glimpse into basically what I would consider the third option. You have the destroy the warp forever and humanity reigns supreme, and then you have, submit all sentient beings to the will of the warp and just, destroy the materium forever, sink it all into the immaterium. And this kind of third, never discussed option is very. It feels heretical.
It's there, and you're
But
not
I
allowed to
also-
touch it.
Yeah, it feels heretical, but it feels that way in such a way to where, like, I think the Inquisition would be like, well, if we fuck with it, this could become a demon incursion, but if we don't, at worst,
It becomes a smaller
use
demon
it toward-
incursion.
well, it's in the eyes of the Inquisition, I feel like they would almost see that as a form of allies of opportunity. These beings are not hurting anything. Sometimes they're helping something. So, if we gotta nuke something, we'll nuke something, but we don't have to yet. So that ammunition is best spent elsewhere.
We'll rig the planet to exterminate itself in case of emergency.
Now, this Clockwork City, is it meant to be like a dark age of technology piece of tech, or does this also have something to do with this, with the warp entities of the planet?
I think that was actually exactly what I wanted to go into. I think that is this city and some of the technology that is across the planet is one of the reasons why they haven't been exterminatus yet, because the Inquisition, which one is it? There's this one part of the Inquisition that is that wants to close that needs to close the rift. Like that's their main
The small little guys.
objective.
The whittle guys.
The whittle guys.
He's just a whittle guy.
And those sections said, hey, if we're bombing this shit, that's gonna be another one of those. That's another rift opening. Do not fuck around with it, because essentially nobody exactly knows how the perpetual motion machine works, but they do know that the Inquisition has learned enough to know that it is powered by warp energy, and that it is somehow it has a link to the warp. And if they mess with this balance even a little, it can go horribly wrong.
I could see this being a Necron artifact.
Oh my god.
That's
Maybe not. Some
Or
things are
even
best left in the
it
dark.
could also be a bit of Dark Age technology.
when you say the Necron technology, this isn't a suggestion, but it is an idea that creates, is like the concept of they have the Necron tech is big on like the opening and closing of gateways into the warp, or the reduction in severity, almost the concept that it is partially responsible for the pacification of the immaterium in the area.
And
Just
also
thought.
why Cadia's rift wasn't as big as it was until the planet blew up.
It's there's an interesting thought experiment to be had there, but I think not saying it lends itself better to the way they write things for the tabletop, which is
It's a thing. We
Well,
don't
leave
know
that
what
to
it
the people to figure out
does, what
while
it
they're playing the
boos,
game.
but it's there, and you have to live with it.
Yeah, and I think that's the way I think about it here as well. Just some things are left better in the dark and up to imagination.
So, I guess we should probably get to this topic. How did your Space Marine chapter end up deciding this was going to be their homeworld?
I think.
I mean, to be fair, it doesn't have to be a Space Marine group. It could be like the Guardsman Regiment of the planet, or like.
I mean, the knee-jerk thought
Or
that
considering
I
the fact that
assumed
you
was
have
the case.
Titans and Knightlyhood orders, you could have a Titan Knight order on the planet as well.
The immediate
That is-
assumption that the lore gave me was the idea that they are put there almost as an in-case mechanism.
That's actually a good way to think about it. So they're more. They didn't quite choose their homeworld. They were told, "Hey, we need guys there. This is your homeworld now." But I also like to think that the Space Marines that were chosen to live there are more interested in research, in frontier exploration. Like they want to be these guys that are at the front and the first to see, and not necessarily just bombard and kill everything, but scope out the first situation. They are capable of doing it if necessary, but they'd rather first scope out the situation and understand what's going on.
Yes, the Magnus policy of we're going to kill you, but we're also going to completely study everything about you and keep it in a book somewhere.
I love
I don't know.
crossovers.
I think all the Gaelic tribes are
Also,
naked
hello
barbarians.
Sniffums, and yes Sniffums. An honest answer from Birch, no clue.
What?
Sniffums talking about you giving an
what
honest
exactly?
answer. Well, so they're a bit of a frontiers group, I guess.
You know what?
Similar to how the U.S. military was when doing Manifest Destiny and all that.
You know how rogue traders are kind of given independent authority to function from the Imperium, allied with, they can, ally with Xenos, and sometimes they'll get their own contingent of Space Marines. This almost has that kind of quality to it of a faction that's generally been left to function independently, and it's just kind of been given a hodgepodge of Imperial resources to make sure it's kept on the straight and narrow, but is using it for its own, for its own purpose, be that maintenance, expansion, defense. Not that I'm implying this should be a rogue trader based faction or anything like that, but those types of connections within the Imperial bureaucracy do exist. I totally would be of the mind that a planetary governor could basically be given a successor chapter of Space Marines that the Imperium was sitting on, or maybe even. Do you think it's going to be a full successor chapter size, or you can probably get away with shrinking it to a warband even?
I think it would be more like a warband in this situation, because I don't want them to be super powerful. They already have smaller Titans, and then this. I want them to be rather small. As I said, they're more like explorers. They're not necessarily frontline fighters.
At that point, they can be almost just like I was mentioning, just kind of almost contracted into service. So some form of from some associated or volunteer force of Space Marines across several different chapters. That would give you a good reason to have people who want to be involved, because instead of recruiting a chapter from a planet's populace, you get volunteers from established Space Marine chapters who are interested in
sort of like the Death Watch.
Yeah, sort of like that. Voluntary interest, but that also gives an explanation for why there might be a disproportionate amount of psychers, because the Imperium isn't going to willingly ration that out, and you would kind of rely on a particular gene seed for that. And you could do an established gene seed, but if you have it on a volunteer basis, it would stand to reason that psychers would just inherently be more interested in this than non-psychers.
And then if you want to have an established gene seed, you can just say that when the Primaris came out, they received a dedicated gene seed.
I think I like Virtual Bat's idea best. Because it also, on the one hand, it gives this credence of, all right, yeah, there's psychers would be more interested, there's more variety, etc. On the other hand, it's also it also helps make this chapter a bit more of a think tank. So they're capable of bringing their ideas together and reimagine. They're not allowed to invent, so they're reimagining things.
Yeah, instead of the Imperium saying you get a chapter here and the gene seed is one we've selected, you can have you could have a rune priest discussing the nature of the location with some form of seer from the White Scars or a psyker from the Blood Ravens who might be Thousand Suns gene seed depending on your school of thought. And that gives you the opportunity to have a lot of individuality in the chapter, as well as room for, from a tabletop and lore perspective, a lot of independent characters that can fill a lot of different roles.
Yeah.
It's something that this planet requires a lot of Imperial squinting, and it's really riding that heresy line. But
it would also need to probably be located on the frontiers of the Imperium as well, just to give it that extra bit of leeway in order for it to survive.
That was the idea to begin with, that it was like as far away from Terra as just possible at the moment.
Yeah, so this thing is going to be in the Imperium area then.
Mm.
So this is going to be on the other side of the Great Rift, right?
Maybe?
More than likely after
I think that would be a good idea, just based on the nature of everything.
It gives them even more reason to be like, we'll deal with this later.
Yeah, because they're like, we can barely get across to you, let alone tell you what to do. So just don't break anything.
Just don't make it worse.
Listen, Mom's out right now. We can do whatever. Just don't break shit.
Dude, when Dad gets off the couch, he might be pissed, but he's still in his chair.
When he finally gets up out of that chair, boy, is he gonna give us a good old, leather strap belt.
I would love to see what certain lore characters' reactions to this kind of setup would be very interesting. Particularly Lionel Johnson, just having come back into the setting and kind of working as that force in the Imperium, where we gotta get back, we gotta reconnect, we gotta push these things back and bring these worlds back into the fold. His planet is just a fucked up version of this one. His homeworld is my understanding. Just a nightmare place of like medieval monsters. He basically was the Dark Forest.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Basically medieval fantasy land, but the dark version.
Yeah, it's less Oblivion, more Skyrim. Turn down that color saturation, turn up the HDR.
I feel like it'd be more of a Dark Souls.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think.
Well, I was just comparing. I was comparing it within Elder Scrolls, but yeah, that kind of that would be really interesting, because he would either look at that and say, reminds me of home, or he would look at that and say, absolutely fucking not.
Well, better break out the Exterminatus again.
I gotta say, I'm of the chapters that have been discussed, I think there's a lot of really interesting.
I feel like
concept.
if
when you said you only had the homeworld, I was like, oh gosh. But
very, very, very interested in this planet. Very, very interested.
I think they'd be really pissed off about it.
I mean, they'd be pissed off with the fact that it exists in the Imperium because their planet was basically this, but you know.
Yeah, and they're like, okay, so they can do it, and the
allowed
Space
to
Wolves
do it.
can do it, and the White Scars can do it, but when we do it, oh, all of a sudden the blonde guy has to break my back. Okay.
It's not fair, brother.
It's just not fair.
Hey, we all know that the Emperor plays favorites. Just don't worry about it.
Magnus did nothing wrong.
The Emperor
Magnus
knew
did
what was
nothing
going to
wrong.
happen. He had already counted Magnus. Actually, I don't think that's true. The Emperor knew the heresy was coming long before it came. There were a few pieces that were swapped, though. That's a conversation for another time, but Magnus did so much wrong. Magnus is a fuck up of a misunderstood magnitude. And I will die on that hill, not just as a space wolf, but after having read these books, oh my god.
Listen,
The Magnus dick riding is absurd.
Magnus is a man who decided to pave his way to hell with so many good intentions.
They were barely even good intentions. He just paved the way to hell with his own intentions. Good or bad.
He didn't just pave the way. He made sure that that there were proper markings, that it was a 3-lane highway, that you had the capacity for the forthcoming future.
Listen,
that you'll have properly planned.
The whole horse
for
heresy could have been
electricity.
prevented if the Emperor of Mankind was just a better fucking father.
And it could have been drastically reduced. It could have been drastically reduced if Magnus wasn't a fucking stupid idiot and listened maybe a little bit to everyone else. People like to bitch about the Council of Nicaea and how unfair it was to him compared to other Space Marine chapters. This man made a deal with basically the devil, knowing better. He had the most knowledge of that anyone did beyond the Emperor and Malkador. And he was just like, yeah, I'll sacrifice my entire chapter just to tell the Emperor something's wrong, even though I don't know if he already knows or not.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, that isn't necessarily what happened, but yeah.
It's highly debatable.
I mean, he didn't plan to sacrifice his chapter or the people that were involved. He just he did make that deal to get through to the Emperor because the Emperor had created an anti-warp barrier around.
And this is where I get my bullshit. This is where I get on my Space Wolf bullshit. The audacity about people bitching about the burning of Prospero. It was a misinformation campaign. Okay?
By fucking Horus.
It was a Horus false flag attack.
Listen. It's not Magnus's fault. It's not Lehman's fault. It's Horus. It's always fucking Horus.
Fucking Horus.
Well, actually, if you want to go even further back, it's the man who stabbed him.
It's not even. It is all Erebus.
If you want to go even further back, it's the fact that they got yeeted into the warp in the first place.
Lorgar's worse.
Shut up, Sniffums. You're gonna go through Warhammer history class today. Today we're talking about did Magnus do anything wrong?
It's the Emperor's fault. You want to go further back, it's actually the Shaman's fault. If you want to go further back, it's actually the Old One's fault.
And if you want to go even farther back, it's the fact that this entire universe exists. So it's the fucking universe's fault.
Fuck you, universe.
Goddamn universe. You screwed over Magnus.
Actually, it circles back around. It circles back around to being Erebus's fault in the last book.
It's always Erebus.
There's a very long, complicated reason, but it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and at the heart of it is goddamn Erebus. Sniffums, no, you have a good opportunity to listen and learn.
We have now usurped this Irish folktale fantasy lore Space Marine chapter video to rant about Magnus and Lehman and
Now you say Magnus would be interested in the planet. Let's circle back around. I think Lorgar would love the idea of Kumbaya with the warp entities.
Can't even deny that.
I mean, he might, but at the same time, it might also be like, hey, you weren't worshiping them like gods. You got to treat them like gods, man. You got to treat them like gods, or otherwise I'm going to beat the shit out of you. I got my mallet.
I think I got people on the planet would be like, sure, whatever floats your boat, but this has worked for like thousands of years. We're gonna continue like this.
Yeah, Logar would be probably honestly kind of pissed that that what he views as gods are treating them far better than they ever treated him.
So I'm assuming I'm assuming this planet just makes it unscathed through the heresy.
I think so. There wouldn't be any reason for anyone to really be there. If anything, I would say that during the heresy, the amount of these spirits increased, because I kind of saw it as I kind of see these spirits as renegades, as runaways from their original warp gods. They don't want to be part of whatever is happening in the warp anymore, so they kind of found this planet to settle down and be chill. If they are capable of
another
higher
dragon
thought.
migrated into the backfield again.
I think we lost Sniffums.
He did.
We killed Sniffums. Congratulations.
Sniffums, if you're hearing this, that's really funny.
It's funny to me.
It is funny to me.
But I don't like.
Sometimes
I
they
don't know
are
how
Imperial Fist, and other times they are Wolf. It's hard to tell sometimes.
So I don't know how realistic that is within the setting, if that would be a possibility or not.
Oh, we did not.
What?
Huh?
we nothing. It would be pretty realistic to make it out of that heresy. I mean, the galaxy is so goddamn large that, you know,
Brother, have you seen the size
fighting-
of this galaxy? Can fit so many shitty planets on it.
you can say
Slaps the
anything.
top of
and it
Galaxy.
works.
This bad
It's-
boy
it's-
can fit so many shitty stories in it.
If I'm gonna have someone suffer, I'm gonna make someone.
Oh no.
No, why? What did I do? What did I do, Sniffum?
Greetings, brothers.
So it's the like I was gonna say though, it's the miracle of this setting. It's like you could just say shit and sure you can squint and say it's true. Were they involved in the heresy? Yeah, the conflict was gigantic, beyond fathom. Did they avoid it? Yeah, the galaxy's big. Everything's big. You could just get away with whatever.
You can always say that Guardsman Regiment went off to go fight in the war, but that was about it.
That's assuming they had a standing.
To
standing
be fair,
regiment.
most planets usually have at the bare minimum
What am I
Well,
talking
sure,
about? They had an
defense force.
operating night house.
Yeah, they also had an operating night house. But honestly, this planet would have attracted some very unwanted attention during the heresy because of that. That would have been very much the one thing that has tipped the scales from being ignored to being, there's Titans on this fucking planet. I want it.
Fair enough.
I mean, I guess you could say that the Titans left to go fight in the war to keep the attention away from the planet.
They probably would have as our scout regiments, but I don't know how, where, when. Like, I had not
Can you
thought
at
of
least
the
pick what
heresy
side
at
they
all.
would have been on? Because that would be the critical point of, they kind of have to be loyalist, or otherwise their planet's going to have a very unfun time later.
They were loyalists as much as they dislike being like as much as they disliked the rules of
Listen, I
what
don't
they were
like
put.
you,
They were
but that guy over there scares me.
exactly I don't like what's going on right now, but I might be able to get something out of this if I help you. And these guys are a lot worse than you.
I mean, you say
I think
that,
that's how they thought.
We don't talk about what happened to the mutated Raven Guard after the Horus Heresy.
What happened to them to become birds?
One of them did.
Kind of, but
perfect. That's all I need to know.
Corvus tried to cure them, and then he had to put them all down.
It can be debated right now that Corvus is birds.
Yeah, it's unknown whether or not he's turned into a bird or not. A giant
Corvus Corax.
bird creature.
Corvus Corax in the warp right now is the best shit ever. And if you have not read anything about it, please look up those excerpts. He's basically tormenting Lorgar in the warp, hunting him and basically constantly reminding him that he's there and looking for him and is going to kill him. And that's really what he's doing. And we have recent lore developments on it that we know exactly where Lorgar is, we know exactly where Corax is, and Corax is just fucking with him. It's like the Shining. It's beautiful. And if you hate Lorgar and you want a good reason to appreciate Corax, look up those lore bits. They are delightful.
Imagine
I feel like it's more of a darker version of the Joker and
Corvus just
man.
Raven picking at Mordor's bread.
Imagine Lorgar just returning it to the mortal realm and just being like, listen, just take me into custody. Just get me away from him.
It's just a fucking crow. God.
Just get me away from it. I don't want to see any more crows. I swear. I'll be a good boy.
Please don't hurt me.
Did you? I might have missed this. Did you have a name for the homeworld in mind?
No. That's what I wanted to have the book for. Everything that has to do with everything that had to do with naming, I wanted to have the book.
Let's just name it Ireland.
New Airy at the moment.
New Airy.
It's just New Airy is essentially is Gaelic for Ireland, and New Airy is just essentially placeholder for now.
Placeholder for
New Ire.
It's certainly not a bad placeholder.
Your lordship, they're unironically Irish.
Fuck.
And they all speak with a Wessex accent.
Oh no! They're Northern Irish.
What?
Wessex is not in Northern Ireland, you fuck.
I have offended all of the Irish here, don't worry.
Let's get Irish political. It's my favorite species.
I still need to meet, I think, a Welshman and a person from the Isle of Man before I have completed my British Isles bingo card.
Your British
the Isle of Man counts?
Okay. Yes. They actually have pretty famous rallies over there.
Do they?
Yeah.
I
think it's mainly motorcycle rallies, though.
Because I've met an Irishman, a North Irishman, a Scotsman, and an Englishman. Still haven't gotten Welsh.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. Those four are kind of like sand on the beach. You find them everywhere. The Welsh, they're not as developed. They don't have as much access to internet, I think.
I was about to say, just throwing stones at each other.
Oh my god.
They're too busy making songs about the fact that they boast the world's longest railway sign.
Little did we know, we got one viewer for approximately 2 milliseconds who was from Wales.
And he just immediately left after hearing this thing.
We got the one person from Wales who has Twitch.
Or the one person from
He's just immediately, oh, this leaves.
It's just like, motherfuckers!
Hey, look, Ma! They're talking about whales! Fuck! They're talking
We're
shit
being
about
shit
whales.
talked, and at least 3 of them are American.
He's sitting in his office, which is just a sheep barn, and he's like, Betsy, don't listen to him.
You know the way people bury their head in a pillow and scream? He just like gathers a bunch of hay up and goes.
Yeah. No, he just picks up his sheep and just straight up
The
yells
sheep.
into it.
I was going to say, he just sticks the straws in his mouth.
If anyone is getting angry about Europe's slander, I have several maps prior to the year 1900 to show you.
If everybody gets mad about Europe slander, I am European, so it's fine. I'm giving you the Euro card.
Yes, we have acquired the Euro pass.
No, it's okay. I have a European friend.
Okay. We do have to specify Western European because Eastern Europeans are a different breed.
I haven't said a word about the Eastern Europeans.
Eastern Europeans will skin us alive.
Whoa!
That depends.
I mean, it depends
That
on
very
which
much
one.
depends.
Some of them are very nice. Other ones will skin you alive. It depends on which one you encounter.
Some of them will be
You go
very
far
polite,
enough east, they
skinning
sound
you
very-
alive.
We're getting bizarrely tribal here.
I don't know how we got to this point here.
Hey, that's the American way.
What's that image I sent you? Their heathen gods, their wretched wastes, our beautiful leader, our glorious homeland. That's ridiculous.
All right. Anyways, back to the point. What even was the point at this point?
I think we've kind of reached the point where it's either we have.
Let's talk about potential color schemes.
Okay.
Green, gold, and white. That like there's no
Well, that was easy.
very much a lot of green and gold.
Well, Alice, I know what I'm coming
But
to do
tastefully.
later.
I kind of assumed that was going to be the color
I'm joking. I'm joking.
I'll do that myself.
I am joking though because I have spent quite a bit on commissions recently, and I do not want to spend more on commissions until I've recovered from my commission spree.
I'm so happy to hear that I won't get any more commissions.
Anyway, how's the bird in the armor doing?
I don't know. How's my PayPal account doing?
It's the one you agreed to do for free, remember?
Privately, I agree to do it for free. Publicly, pony up.
Yeah.
My public stance
Get
as
out that debit card, motherfucker.
you gotta understand, I am not appearing here as Alice. I'm appearing here as Alice of Bats. My public stance is I don't do free art.
No, they don't do free art. The only reason they're doing this is because I made one comment about one piece of art not looking maybe up to snuff.
I said what? Look, an artist journey is
blackmailed them.
long. An artist journey. No, actually, I volunteered it because we talked, and I was very, very unhappy with some previous work I had given them, and I felt so unhappy about it that I'm like, I don't feel right having accepted
And
payment for you.
I didn't want to just like originally they were trying to offer me to do the original two Space Marines, setting shooting things.
Yeah, the Rift Dragon part
and I was just like, no, I don't want to. I want to pay you for that because that's like some decent shit. The bird in the armor was just an agreement of it's funny, and it was something you already had planned. We had already planned to do afterwards, so it's a far more simple thing. It's funny. I could live with that. I could live with that.
While we're off topic, I gotta say, goddamn, the real trans experience is sitting here being mildly pissed off about this voice changer you have.
Simple solution: acquire a voice changer.
I know. Complicated solution. I don't know how.
Just get
It's
voice
especially
mod. Sure,
it's especially
not
weird
in
considering how
price and
fucking natural it sounds.
I know. I'm sitting here kind of low key jealous of the robot
It's not
of the
even
robot
an AR
fem
one.
voice. I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah,
It's
just
It's not even one of the AI
I think in the
ones.
first stream, he did it without the synthetic filter, and it still sounded as natural as fucking anything. It is so goddamn weird.
I have not changed it at all since the first stream. The only thing I've changed is that I don't have the noise suppression on this time.
Look, if I have to sit here sounding like my government assigned gender, and you get to sit there.
Don't worry. Sniffum's got you covered. Sniffum's got you covered.
My slave gender.
Sniffum's got you covered. Sniffum's got you covered.
Oh my god, you laugh like the doctor from The Simpsons. What's his name? Oh fuck, that's a really funny contrast.
Anyway, Sniffums has got you covered.
Thank you, Sniffums.
Even though it was them in the first place that ended up doing it, so you know.
Okay, you know what? Not thank you. Maybe your female
Honestly, no,
has been revoked.
But anyway,
if
if you ever get voice mod, I can share you the settings I use for mine.
You know, genuinely curious.
Although
Is
I
it a
think
lazy?
I
Is
think
it a lazy ass way of not voice training? Absolutely.
Yeah. There's VR chat rules for that, though. I totally don't know from experience, I swear.
I don't want to lose the thread too far on this chapter.
Yeah, let's get back to the point. Sorry, so we established color. How about their opinion on Terminators and Dreadnoughts?
Considering that that's such a small chapter that is just a hodgepodge of different expeditionary units, essentially, I don't think they have a specific thought on them. I don't even think they have any.
Alright, well, let's talk about how their command structure is set up, since they're a bunch of idiotic volunteers.
Hey, they're not idiotic volunteers.
Hey! They're very smart volunteers, alright?
They're people who had straight A's and
Mm-hmm.
in
They
school.
What
went
are
to
you
college
talking
and got
about,
a
Mr. Wolf?
degree.
They're made up of
Look, they may have been
psychers.
given swirlies in the scouting.
I don't know, Mrs. Wolf. You're sounding pretty heretical to your own chapter here.
Who's sounding heretical to their own chapter?
You.
What did I say that's anti-wolf?
The fact that you're supporting a mostly psyker-based chapter.
My brother and the Emperor, the Space Wolves are a psyker-based chapter.
No,
Yeah,
remember, there are no psychers in the Space Wolves, only Rune Priests.
Yeah.
Sniffums, you're not gonna go insane, I swear. Probably.
But just in
Bash
case,
my
you
head in.
may want to call somebody.
But anyway, do they, like, if somebody is injured enough to be a dreadnought, do they do that, or do they just shoot them?
I
don't think they can do. I don't think they commit the war crime. I think they would do it, but it's the case of, do we have one lying around right?
Did one happen to come in with the last group of volunteers?
Is there
Yeah,
a traditional
because-
Irish warrior's funeral?
Good question. I think there is, and it's more like burial mounds, but it's reserved for more esteemed people.
Burials with possessions. That's interesting. And even beyond this stream, if you find out anything, let me know, because I'm just kind of genuinely a little curious about that now.
We can always come back for part 2 later on down the road once this is a bit more fleshed out.
I like a lot of this.
It is definitely a very interesting concept.
Like, I would love to see I would love to see bits and pieces of like miniatures or hell, just tabletop stuff for that. Because I'm big on the tabletop realm as well as the books. But like, I like it. I'm a fan.
The Rift Dragons would certainly like to send some volunteers. I swear, they're volunteers. They aren't spies, they're volunteers.
Yeah, we know what faction we're not letting in.
You know how Superman puts on a pair of glasses to become the nerd Clark Kent?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's some like bald, massive alpha legionnaire who puts on like a pair of spectacles and is like, "Hello, fellow academics"?
Yeah.
Hello,
Wearing
fellow
his
Irishman.
fucking Hydra skin under his suit.
Hello, fellow Irishman.
Boy.
First test. Oi, what you ordering at the pub? A beer? He ain't one. Get him.
That's how they tell if you're one of them.
Yeah, if you're not ordering a pint of the black stuff, then you're not one of us.
That's good.
What's the main drink on the planet? It's Guinness. How do they have Guinness?
Guinness.
Don't worry about it. They have it.
You name it, they have it. In terms of alcohol.
What's the goddamn?
I'm not gonna go.
And they totally didn't steal the Space Wolves' booze.
It's
Totally
that format from
Can't
the.
prove it.
It's the format from that fucking Civil War movie. Is like, what planetary cultural influence are you? We're Irish. What kind of Irish? And then they all
Southern
start
Irish.
sweating profusely.
Listen, there is only one Ireland, all right?
Oh, don't say that. That's going to be some controversial shit.
No, you know what?
To who?
Let's
The
just
Brits.
breeze past this. I don't think it's any of us three on the right's place to discuss Irish identities.
I mean, one of us here wants to move to Ireland.
What the fuck is that?
Yeah, but you're not the three on the right.
No, I am part of the three on the right.
He is part
Yeah,
of
but-
the three on the right. I was
Did you
talking
forget
about
which
the
direction
American.
your rights and lefts are? Are we having a Dave
No.
scenario again?
Shut the fuck up.
He's from Europe. It's okay.
I'd like you to know we drive on the right side of the road.
We also drive on the right side of the road.
I meant the correct side, Val.
So the right side.
Exactly.
Anyway,
This goes on for 2 more hours.
I just looked at the comments, and it appears Sniffums has gone feral.
yeah, Sniffums, listen, there are 3 outcomes of Sniffums. He's either normal, feral, or the third one that Birch doesn't like to look at.
Horse.
Yeah, basically.
I love that he got cut out exactly as he said it. That was great. Like,
Conservators are built in with self-censoring. If you didn't know that.
Shit.
Oh, it didn't work. I beg your pardon.
Sniffums. I know. There's more people living inside your head than the average man, but we're talking about your usual mental state. This version of you. This specific one.
Before we lose.
Before we
completely lose
to
sight,
his
is there
insanity.
anything else? Is there anything else that you like wanted to expand upon while we were all in one place? Or was this just kind of sharing what you had and taking feedback on existing stuff and waiting for development later?
Yeah, it's kind of that. Because I'm not too deep in the whole structural thing, in the whole structure of Imperium, blah blah blah, of Warhammer, and there's a lot of things that I have to research and actually place in myself. So,
To be fair, not every
I mean, if
Space
you
Marine
want to
chapter
make
is
an
governed the
adherent,
same way.
if you want to make it adherent to the traditional structure of Warhammer, you'd probably need to do a little tweaking, but I usually like to find justifications within the lore to accommodate homebrew stuff rather than the other way around, or else you kind of end up with some cookie cutter template stuff. Which is why I like the idea of the
Hospital Part 2
volunteer
Electric
Space Marines,
Boogaloo.
like a non-organized, unorganized, but like not sanctioned strictly by the Imperium kind of war band. Like that's
They're the
definitely
dropouts.
it's definitely plausible.
They could have like
You could justify it with a ton of excuses in the lore, but it's definitely not what you would expect. But if you did everything you expected, we would just be Matt Ward.
Fair enough.
you could have their leadership basically be made up of a volunteer council.
Also, no shame on Matt Ward, but shame on Matt Ward.
shame on him anyway.
Matt Ward, I love
Is
you.
that
You
some kind
know
of
what you
American-
fucking did.
Isn't he the
Is that some
man
kind
that
of
made
American joke I am
Isn't
too
he
European
the
to
one that
understand?
made the
No,
Ultramarines,
he was
the
the
blueberries?
author who made the Ultramarines intolerable.
Yeah, he's the man that turned the blue boys into the blueberry Smurfs that everybody refers to them as.
That being said, he's also he's done good. I'm not
He's done
entirely
good, but
anti-Matt Ward. I'm just
he's
entirely
definitely a
anti-Matt
simp for
Ward.
he's definitely a simp for the Ultramarines.
Yes.
The man's good at his job, but he's a bit too good when it comes down to the Ultramarines.
Also, I wanted to ask this now 3 times. Have you written all of this down, Dave? Because I haven't been, because otherwise you would have been hearing a typewriter this entire time.
I've got a good bit of details down, but I'm pretty sure Valak is also recording, so if there's anything I need to amend, I can just check that for reference.
Oh,
Okay,
shit, yeah,
good.
that's a good point. This entire...
We have this entire recording to use. And Sniffham's is deteriorating mental state. Oh, we know who next is for servitorization.
What?
Sniffham's so I can understand me with this. So let me turn it off. Turn it off. Hey, Big. I'll throw you in the warp later.
Now throw him in the warp now.
No, don't throw him in the warp.
You can't stop me.
And that's the fucking laws all
Yeah,
Back to normal.
I feel the stack between my toes.
Well, anyway, anything final we should cover? Anything you think we might want to at least try to tackle here, Miss Alice?
I mean, I feel like we've covered a lot of what's available. Short of if there's any other closing, like, and I've shared my notes as they've come up. If anyone else has any thoughts or notes or, points of discussion, they would be a good time to bring it up. Otherwise, I'd love to hear closing thoughts from Birch.
I'd like to see some more lore fleshed out for the Titan Knight group, because those are always interesting to see.
Yeah, that is definitely something I want to work on, because I think it would be. It makes an interesting. It will make an interesting. Bit
Interesting.
Shut up. It would bring a lot of lore to the planet and to the setting if I fleshed them out, because on the one hand, the planet shapes its people, but the people also shape the planet in return. So
And then the
I do want
Titans
to
just
flesh them
stand there
out.
menacingly.
The Titans are part of the people, though.
Your lordship, the Titan squashed my farm again. Can you please tell it to stop running into my yard?
I imagine those Titans just looking like the ones in what's it called? The game 1926, that weird steampunk World War One strategy game with mechs.
Oh,
you
yeah,
mean
that
the one
one.
that's ripped off Company of Heroes' combat mechanics?
Yes, but they did a really fucking good job with it. That
Yeah,
game
I
is
know.
genuinely fun, and
I
I
haven't
don't know
played it
what
yet,
they
but I need
smoked
to
when
get around to it.
I don't know what they smoked when they made that story, but Jesus Christ, it must have been the good stuff because wow, it goes everywhere. But in a good sense.
Is it not based on? I don't know if the art or the art style is the common length, but does it have anything to do with Scythe?
I have no
No
idea what
clue what
side
that
is.
is.
Real homies will understand my Scythe reference. Realer homies will have an answer for me. Y'all are fake.
I'm just not homey enough.
Oh, hey, they want you guys to suffer again.
Do we have much more time to suffer? It's a good question.
No, I think we're about to wrap things up here anyway. Well, I found a right target. You three sort out who's gonna talk first.
You guys go ahead.
I guess we could just do it in order right to left. I'll go, and then we can get Dave and then Birch. Unless you'd rather do it the other way, and Birch, you can close this out.
No, you go ahead.
Do you want us to start, Valak?
Yep.
Well, I was AliceOfBats. You can find me under the name AliceOfBats on most of my platforms that I exist on. I'm Guardians of Our Duel on Tumblr, and you can find me as Arbatra Official on Instagram. Thanks for having me.
Meanwhile, I'm David, and you can find me on YouTube. I upload clips of my shenanigans in video games, and I might have something new on the table for later in November.
I'm Birch. I exist. I live.
Yes!
That was grandiose exit. All right, thank you for everybody that joined in for today, and thank you all once again to my co-hosts here who graciously joined us today, and I totally didn't have to blast any of them out of bed. Totally didn't. They were all here when I got here, when I got off of work. I swear, most loyal group of friends I have ever owned.
I was dragged here by my
Wait,
hair.
did you just say own?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw myself under the bus. I was the one who was asleep, alright?
No, you see it's I forget which one's the Necron guy that collects all the shit?
That would
Trazen?
be Trazen.
Yeah, Trazen.
Yeah.
You guys are my equivalent to the Trazen's collection.
Oh, thanks.
Anyway, thank you.
Shouldn't we all be in stasis then?
Yeah, that's why you guys only show up whenever, like, we're doing this. You guys just get frozen in stasis. Anyway,
Always
don't
stasis.
forget to join the Discord. Check out the YouTube channel to see previous shit. And goodbye, everyone. Enjoy the person I'm sending you off to go raid. Bye.
Now we're in a secret club for cool people.
Yes, the secret club for cool people.
Which is going to
Where's the
end
cool
very
people
soon.
club? I don't get it.
Are you still recording?
It's secret.
Yeah, I am still recording.
What are you still doing here? It's over.
Go home.
Yeah, go home. It's done. Yeah, class ended.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Don't let
Goodbye.
the door hit you. I cannot stand that audience. Now that they're gone, I just want to see that. I just cannot stand them.
Well, then lie them down.
Go-
Okay,
yours
goodbye,
truly.
everyone.